Hello everybody. I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and I love Paladin. Dude, somebody cooked with this thing. Oh my god, it's so good. My final tank, the one remaining. I accidentally happened to save the best for last. Paladin is level. I have been playing it. I have been adoring this thing. Oh my god. So let's talk about it. My thoughts on Paladin for Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. Paladin alongside Dark Knight are two of the jobs I have played the most in my Final Fantasy XIV tenure. And I think when it concerns tanks specifically, I normally gravitated to Paladin or Dark Knight, just based on aesthetics. There were a few issues I always had when it came to Paladin, mainly concerning how enjoyable its offensive rotation was. Remember, I'm mostly approaching this series from how fun and engaging is the job. When it concerns Paladin, I thought Atonement was kind of bleh. It was just bland. It was just seeing the same GCD with no real weaving, just the same GCD 3 times in a row, whoop-de-doo, and it was pretty much just a stab. It is important to note, though, I haven't played it since the 2-minute rework of it. And I know that's been a bit controversial for people, but I think this is my favorite version of Paladin I've ever played. Now, granted, I've never been too deep in Paladin, and I did start in Stormblood. However, I have been extremely enjoying the Dawntrail variant. And I think for the most part, it's a tale of small changes that lead to greater things. What do I mean by this? I've always appreciated the defensive capabilities Paladin has on offer. For the most part, it's always been the tank that to me is the most pure tank. Its defensive options really center around mitigation, however it also brings some heals to the table. Of all the tanks I've played in Dawntrail, I felt the safest on Paladin, and I like its defensive options the most. Holy Sheltron and Guardian, Bulwark, and Divine Veil. Other tanks have similar options, but it's the pure defensive mitigation, putting up shields, healing yourself as well naturally through your kit. There's so many elements on Paladin that focus on defending yourself and protecting yourself while not compromising your offensive capabilities. I really enjoy Paladin because of this. Some of the other tanks like Gunbreaker, for the most part, feel like DPS with some mitigation slapped on top of them. Paladin, when I'm pressing my buttons, feels like a tank first and foremost, and as someone who's really coming to appreciate the tank role, that's an element I really love and adore about Paladin. No matter the situation, even if I'm playing badly for whatever reason, early in the morning, whatever, I always feel as if I have some tool available to me. And while in yesteryear I did have some issues when it came to the offensive capabilities of Paladin, mainly because stuff like Atonement was a bit dull, or Requiescat, again, being very GCD locked, and it still largely is, now named Imperator, but good god! Requiescat now being called, Imperator. The Confidio window, giving you all the unlimited blade works potential that they added. I believe they added this in either Endwalker or Shadowbringers. I think it's Endwalker. Remember, I haven't played Paladin that much in recent years. It's a visual smorgasbord that is absolutely fun, and it looks great. And with Dawntrail, they kind of addressed one of my biggest issues with the Requiescat now Imperator window, that being a lack of OG CDs. Wouldn't that just be Gunbreaker? Yeah, but Paladin can feel a bit slow, but the added Blade of Honor, which is your big level 100 ability, which is essentially an OG CD you press at the end of your Confidia combo. The animation by itself, in my opinion, looks kind of duh. Like, it borderline looks as if the Paladin is half asleep because the swords all point away from the target, but it's an OG CD, and when you pop it at the very end, like right after Blade of Valor, and you have this giant sword poking down into the ground like Excalibur, and you pop Blade of Honor, and all the bunch of swords like erupt from that central sword. Good god, does it look good, but it also feels good. There's moments on Paladin that can still feel a bit slow, but honestly, I don't mind it that much, because at least there's visual variety here, with Atonement now giving you new animations with things like Supplication and Sepulchre. I prefer Imperator as an animation compare to Requiescat. But now we also have, because this was introduced before, the whole Confiteor Unlimited Blade Works combo, and it looks great. And you add that OGCD at the very end, like a bit of flair. Like I said, the beauty of Dawntrail Paladin for me, as someone who has not played a bunch of Paladin in recent years, is a tale of small changes that lead to greater impressions. That doesn't mean that there isn't a few things about Paladin that I'm scratching my head and going, I don't know, I don't get why we are doing this. Fight or Flight turning into Goring Blade, like, it works, don't get me wrong. It does kind of feel unnatural, as if they didn't want to lose Goring Blade, but they didn't know what to do with it, because they didn't want to have the branching combo like Warrior still has, for whatever reason. So they just have Fight or Flight turn into Goring Blade. It's a bit awkward, like, it's a bit weird. Like, you wouldn't think that button would turn into that. Grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal, but it's just like one of those little nitpicks. I also don't like Holy Spirit and Holy Circle. Don't get me wrong, like, what they do is fine, right? Like, it's fine. I just don't like the animation. It feels too unimpactful. It doesn't feel like a big eruption of holy energy on the target or anything. It just feels like, oh, a little snowflake. Oh, isn't that lovely? Oh, isn't that just a treat? When I press the button, it doesn't feel good to press, if that makes sense. Like, I don't get a good audio feedback on it. It doesn't feel as if it's doing a lot. I know it is, but it doesn't feel impactful. Like when I'm dropping a whole bunch of swords in the target with Confiteor or whatnot, or I'm using my atonement procs and all that. If there's any big change coming to Paladin down the line in like 8.0, I can easily see them doing an upgraded Holy Spirit and Holy Circle just to make the animation better. I think something where we just spawn a sword and it launches into the target would be really cool. And no, not in a Confiteor way. I'm meaning like a small sword that appears above our like model, like our character, and like is launched into the target like a projectile. I think that could be pretty cool. But there's so many little elements of Paladin that I absolutely adore. I do not know how Shield Bash still exists in this game, but I'm glad it does. Will you use this most of the time? Hell no. Will you ever use this thing in like a trial or a raid? No. But every now and then in a dungeon, and you see a couple of mobs trying to do some channeled ability, and you time it right to stun them all, it feels good. I like that. It's a little bit of flair and class identity. I have a shield. Of course, I'm not just standing there with the thing as if it's a number 2 pencil trying to take a test with it. Of course, I'm going to be bashing jabronis with the thing. It feels good to pull off. Honestly, an easy addition to this thing, for me down the line, would be to make it AoE. Make it some nice dungeon utility for like wall-to-wall pulls so I can like stun the enemies for a little bit of time. Maybe you have to like modify just how much you could spam the thing, or just diminishing returns take care of that. But that'd be a cool idea to me. Nothing too busted, but a nice bit of flair and individuality to it. There's so many little things I could see them change when it comes to 8.0 for Paladin, because I think the blueprint, the formula of Paladin works so well. Clemency. I love the fact we just have a heal, especially in a group that may be struggling or whatnot. Say like a healer dies in a dungeon, and I'm just left alone with a DPS member. I can like pull double duty. I can heal that DPS member so we can take down the boss. I did that in a dungeon run earlier today. It felt good to be able to pull off. It felt good being able to say, I'm on Paladin and I can do things as a Paladin more naturally than it could on the other tanks. And it feels good. I'm glad I'm playing Paladin, and I love moments like that, where I just sit back in my chair and I'd be like, you know what? This feels good. Because that's what Paladin feels like. It feels good. I could not tell you why Intervene still has damage and potency attached to it. But like, it's whatever, I guess. I don't know why we still separate Intervention from Holy Sheltron and we don't just combine this into one ability. Some of the other tanks do this as well. I don't even mind that Cover exists as an ability. You're not going to use it often, but when you figure out a good opportunity to use it, it's another moment where you just go, thank God I'm playing Paladin right now. It's like when you play Warrior in a dungeon and like your healer dies or something and you pop Bloodwetting and you just heal yourself with every GCD to full. Moments like that make jobs feel special, and they feel fun because of it, in my opinion. And I think Paladin has that in spades. It has a bunch of little utility that you won't use all the time, but when you find an opportune time to use it, it feels so good. Passage of Arms. When the boss is about to do a giant AoE on the party, you just stand there like the bastion of the light in front of your entire team, shield out at the ready, wings popped, and you use passage of arms. You feel like a tank, as if you have your own personal mini LB3. It's fun. I love stuff like this. So while, like, Paladin can feel a bit slow to me on occasion, and how GCD locked it can be on occasion, the toolkit that Paladin brings to the table, in my opinion, is the most fun of any of the 3 tanks. Is the most enjoyable. It makes me feel more like a tank than any of the other tanks. Because most of the other tanks just feel like DPS with a tank coat of paint. Paladin feels like a tank through and through, and I love that element to it. We'll talk about this more in the tank roundup video coming in a few days. I understand the complaints some people have of tank homogenization, because it does exist here, especially with the remake they did back in Endwalker, remake I say, where they put it in line with the 2-minute window. 100%, it does feel similar to other tanks offensively in that regard. Maybe this is a bit of a hot take. I think Paladin has the best animations. Look, I'm a sucker for summoning giant swords and wings, like Confidio just carries this thing over the top, in my opinion. It's so good. Sure, I think Holy Circle and Holy Spirit are a bit bleh, like finding corn in the morning log, but I'm just saying, right? Atonement has visual variety now, and they look like really cool sword slashes that you should be able to do as a Paladin. Imperator looks awesome. I just really like Paladin, honestly. I just do. And honestly, I'm probably going to main Paladin for the rest of Dawntrail, unless they do some kind of giga change to the other tanks for whatever reason. Paladin's just been so much fun. I've been enjoying it every time I play it. Whether I'm in a raid, whether I'm in a dungeon, it just feels good. Whether I'm off tanking or main tanking, it feels good. I like having all of these different tools in my kit. Defensively, I love being able to throw out the odd heal if I think it's needed. And holy Sheltron's just the best, dude. It really is. It's like whenever I need that thing, it's always available. Because it doesn't have a cooldown, it's just tied to your oath gauge. And you build up so much oath gauge that most of the time I overcap because I have no need to press it. So yeah, in conclusion, I love Paladin. I just do. You look great. The glamour, let's be fair here, the most important element. The glamour for Paladin is Chef's Kiss. I've been getting the Mandeville weapons for Paladin at this point. Oh my god, are they nice. The red sword and shield, mwah, beautiful. I'm definitely going to go back and get the Realm Reborn relic for Paladin. I gotta finish out my Heavensward one as well. I'm gonna have to do Eureka. So yeah, overall, I'm happy. And with that, I think I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for bringing the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.